I'm going to give the solution-oriented answer, of course, even though I'm going to parenthetically say to you, that is very hard. That can be very, very hard. But the truth is, that's the truth of everything on the spiritual path. If we're not getting to that place where it's a challenge, we're not growing. So, but I just wanted to share some compassion with you first. There's two answers that come to me for that question. The first is how we behave in those situations. So it feels to me that the first part of it is what we're putting out. And the second part of it is looking at the word environment as a more inner space. And somehow that feels like it's useful to separate them right now. I feel, I've been in that situation, of course, probably everybody here has, because again, most of the world is not making spiritual effort. And I will tell you that I have heard numerous, I would say almost like the Gita, too numerous to count, but I'm not sure if that's true, maybe too numerous for me to remember right now, stories of challenges that people have had, even within Ananda communities, of working together. It's challenging, we're human beings. And the other truth is that people are on the spiritual path and very well intentioned, but some people can be very, very negative. Excuse me. And very often don't know that they're being negative. And very often, if you try and tell them that they're being negative, it just brings out more of a fight, almost predictable, depending on what that negativity looks like. So it takes a lot of spiritual and emotional maturity, and through that maturity, some finesse. I don't mean cheating people, but I mean really finesse. How do we manage a situation so that it will be for everybody's highest well-being, the highest that they can attain? And so we can never be reactive in those situations. As soon as we're reactive, we're part of the problem, and it's impossible. We bring no good to it. So we need to be inwardly calm, and developing that calmness in the face of negativity is of primary importance. After that calmness needs to come our own upliftment, if that's even a word. I use it a lot, and I'm not sure it's a word. But our energy needs to be as uplifted as we can get it, even in the face of that negativity, so that we don't get drawn in, which is shockingly easy to do, is to be drawn into the negativity, even if it's just because we want to fight with it, we want to counter it. Again, those things don't work. So the most important thing is staying calmly centered and uplifted, and refusing to be magnetized by that negativity. And the next thing is to bring positive energy, but not in a way that's antagonistic. And I know that could sound weird, but to the person who's being very negative, if you try and bring positive energy exactly about the point that they're being negative, they will feel it as an attack. And it won't work. It never works. I mean, just think about it. Every one of you in your life, somebody's been really negative, and you try and show them why it's not negative or smile a lot about it. No, it does not work. They're stuck where they are, I would say, use that word. So it doesn't help to just in any way look like we're not seeing them, hearing them, feeling them, or making fun of them. So I don't know the exact situation. Sometimes we need to enter into gentle discussion about it. I know last week I was with a friend. I'd gone out to brunch with a friend who has been having a very difficult time over the past year for a lot of reasons. And she's found herself in a life, because of illnesses and other things, it's become more and more and more contractive. She's actually a very great soul, a very great soul. And I've seen that great soulness. But over the last months, I've watched as she's become having to fit into her world as it is right now, more and more and more negative. And either she's been unaware of it, or she's been aware of it and has not been able to change. I don't know. I didn't know. And I've watched it for a long time without saying a word, because it just wasn't going to work. So I've kept my heart open. I've been loving of her. I've been positive in other ways in terms of keeping the energy high in the environment that we share. But I never said anything head on. And even when suggestions and thoughts would come just drenched in negativity, I would say, I tried to hear the thought and the intent behind the negativity and not the negativity itself, but I never said a word. And then we were out to brunch, and it just came to me, now is the moment. And I just said to her very directly, but again, I hadn't done this for a long, long time, close to a year. She was talking about why everything was going wrong and not good, and because of this person and because of that situation, and just so not like her. And finally, I said to her, you know, you've been very negative recently. She said, I know. I said, you have been walking into every situation with a punch. She said, I've seen that. I said, you're feisty. She said, you're right. I said, stop it. And that's after almost a year, but she got it. So this is why I'm saying it depends on the situation. I have worked with people who are just committed to being negative, or they don't know how to not be negative and they don't want to try. That's just who they're going to be. And I've been with some of those people up close and personal for long times. And we just have to find every way that we can to stay positive. Not positive in their face, but positive because we're positive. Whatever rubs off, rubs off. Whenever we have to say, no, that's not how things are going to go, or it's not how it's going to go for me, then we have to do that. But I've learned never to say, because you're just being negative. No, no. It's like an Achilles heel. That's what it is for those people. But most importantly, you stay positive, you stay calm, you carry on your work whistling as you go, and whatever that looks like, but I mean that. Maybe even raise your energy, not absurdly, but to some degree because of it. Maybe this is in your life because it's an opportunity for you to become more expansive in your positive outlook, stronger in your positive outlook. And I'll just end by saying, keep your inner environment as positive as you can. Means don't get critical of that person. Don't be judgmental. Don't be walking around. It's so human. Believe me, I'm talking to myself as much as I'm talking to you right now. But to walk around and constantly be saying, why does he have to be like that? Why can't he? Why this? Why that? You know, I'll just share publicly. Everybody knows Barry's been very sick going on 3 years now. And that illness, so to speak, has demanded, giving what my dharma is, that I spend more and more and more time around it, because for 30-some years, I wasn't spending a huge amount of time. We had actually very separate lives in many ways, and I've had to learn to be home more, in his home. And for, I would say, the first year and a half, unconsciously, I was not keeping my inner environment positive and clean. I was being loving, I was being serviceful, but I was grumpy about it inside. And about a year and a half ago, or a year ago, I don't know, it dawned on me that this was not his problem, but my problem. This was my dharma, to be with him. How was I going to do that and receive it like the gift from God that I know it is? I know that. So I said to myself, you have to start living that joyfully, positively. Your love needs to be ever more expansive. No judgment, no whining, no whining. That's the most important thing. Because if we're whining internally, that's who we are. What difference does it make what I was showing to Barry? And slowly but surely, I was able to move myself out of that. And I would pretty much say that since last fall, I'm trying to think if I've ever complained about it, even to myself. If I have, it's been rare. And even with people that I'm with a lot, where I used to tell the same stories all the time, the same stories, maybe the circumstance was different. No, I've pretty much quit telling those stories, not just outwardly, but inwardly. And I truly, he has not changed, by the way. His illness has not changed, and he has not changed. But I've changed, and it's just made, and it was hard. This was hard. This was some of the hardest, not the hardest, but some of the hardest karma I faced, all within me. You stay positive. You live in joy. Look at the gift you've been given. Look at the karma you can neutralize, because it's true. It's always true. And then we are rewarded by having the experience of this vehicle being blessed by that which flows through it. Truly, we use that phrase often in terms of money and generosity, but it's true about everything. When I realize realize this is just God serving God. This is that, from that phrase that Kabir said so many years ago that it's in my mind forever, when he said during a fire ceremony one Sunday, every challenge we face brings us to the precipice of freedom. The precipice of freedom, not walking off like we usually think of a precipice and falling, but the precipice of stepping into divine awareness, of ever-expanding consciousness. So to be grateful for the opportunity of that negative person, of that very ill person who actually really needs more and more and more from us, and who may also just happen to be negative. Maybe they come all in one package. I mean, it brings us to the precipice of freedom, and we always have the choice of which way to go. It's hard. I'm saying it again because our upset is so justifiable in the world. Anybody that we spoke to, anybody. And I used to say to Barry, you have no idea how much I'm doing, because he didn't want me to hire help. And for a year, I listened to that. He wanted only me doing everything. And I said to him over and over, if I told anybody how much I was doing here, they would think this was crazy. Because I knew if I told anybody, they'd say, that's nuts. Just hire somebody. Don't listen to him. Just do this, just do that. Because so many of these moments, if we look away from somebody who's going to lead us to the spiritual truth, would say you're justified in your anger, in your upset, in your sadness, in your, you call it whatever you want. Where does that get us? I mean, that's where I got to. Where is this getting me? But what if I opened my heart even more? What if I practiced God serving God? And now I can say, thank God. By God's grace, it came to me. So I'm offering that too, in terms of, that's the most meaningful part of this answer, by the way. Everything else is important, but